late for the government. They're trying to shut down the internet, shut down free speech. They're trying to engage in widespread censorship, and they're too late because we already saw the big public backlash against it on Wednesday. And as Alex said, though, this is just the beginning of that war for freedom. Remember, the internet is the last place where we still have free speech intact, and it's under threat now by both SOPA and PIPA bills. We do have some updated news on that, by the way. The PIPA Senate vote has been delayed. Senator Reid announced last night. That's probably, of course, in reaction to all of the protests that took place on Wednesday. Now, you know how these people work, these crooks in Washington. When something has light on it, when it's being exposed, they'll back away from it. They'll say, oh, we're going to shelve that bill. Don't worry about it. We're going to wait until we have consensus. Those are their words exactly. But then in the middle of the night, probably on a holiday, maybe on upcoming Valentine's Day or something like that, they will find a way to sneak it through, sign it in the dark of night, just like President Obama signed the NDAA on New Year's Eve when half the country was plastered with alcohol. That's the kind of thing that they engage in right here in America. So we have to stay vigilant on this or we will lose our freedom. And the internet is the last place where that freedom remains intact. So it is essential that you defend it and defend the rights of folks like Infowars.com to keep bringing you the truth. I mean, that's what we do here. Stay with us. We have more videos and more news coming up right after this break. This is The Alex Jones Show. We'll be right back. A crew member here at Infowars just brought in a very interesting packet from a food establishment here in Austin. It's a packet of crushed red peppers by Papa John's, and it says right on the front here, it says, crushed red peppers treated with radiation. I'm showing that on the TV there. Treated with radiation, and it's got a little radiation icon on it, which shows like a sprouting little plant with some dotted lines over it to try to make radiation look all friendly. There it is. Treated with radiation. There we go. Cute little radiation icon. It's all friendly. Yeah, little plant. Of course, in reality, radiation kills plants. It should show a skull and crossbones on this. Why would a pizza company brag on its red pepper pack that it's been treated with radiation? Maybe they should call it Fukushima red peppers. Straight out of Fukushima, extra radiation to boost your energy. Oh, yeah, that's what's coming next. Well, odds and ends that are just amusing and sad at the same time. Now, moving on to perhaps more important topics. We've got a video from Ron Paul commenting, not just commenting, but actually proposing a law that would repeal the indefinite detention segments of the National Defense Authorization Act. And this is crucial. It shows once again that Ron Paul is a constitutionalist, a restorationist, and he wants to get these illegal elements of the bill, just smack them down, get them out of the picture, bring back and restore our liberty. Let's go right to that video. Go ahead and roll that, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to introduce a very simple piece of legislation to repeal the infamous Section 1021 of the National Defense Authorization Act, quietly signed into law by the President on New Year's Day. What a way to usher in the new year. Section 1021 essentially codifies into law the very dubious claim of presidential authority under 2001 authorization for the use of military force to indefinitely detain American citizens without access to legal representation or due process of law. Section 1021 provides for the possibility of the U.S. military acting as a kind of police force on U.S. soil, apprehending terror suspects, including Americans, and whisking them off to an undisclosed location indefinitely. No right to attorney, no right to trial, no day in court. This is precisely the kind of egregious distortion of justice that Americans have always ridiculed in so many dictatorships overseas. A great man named Solzhenitsyn became the hero of so many of us when he exposed the Soviet Union's extensive Gulag system. Is this really the kind of a United States we want to create in name of fighting terrorism? Some have argued that nothing in Section 1021 explicitly mandates holding Americans without trial, but it employs vague language, radically expanding the detention authority to include anyone who has substantially supported certain terrorist groups or associated forces. No one has defined what those terms mean. What is an associated force? Sadly, too many of my colleagues are too willing to undermine our Constitution to support such outrageous legislation. One senator even said about American citizens being picked up under this section of the NDAA, quote, "When they say, 'I want a lawyer,' you tell them, 'Shut up. You don't get a lawyer,'" close quote. Is this acceptable in someone who has taken an oath to uphold the Constitution? Mr. Speaker, of course, I recognize how critical it is that we identify and apprehend those who are suspected of plotting attacks against Americans. But why do we have so little faith in our judicial system? Have we not tried in civilian court and won convictions of hundreds of individuals for terrorist or related activities? I fully support continuing to do so. But let us not abandon what is so unique and special about our system of government in the process. I hope my colleagues will join my effort to overturn this shameful Section 1021 of the National Defense Authorization Act. And I yield back.
Well, there you go. Words, strong words, very powerful words from Ron Paul. And the way that I know that I live in a nation where some of the people are truly insane is that they're not supporting this guy. That's crazy. He makes the most sense. He's the only one who honors the Constitution, who honors the rule of law, who wants to restore that rule of law in our nation. He should have 99% of the support. And probably some Southern Louisiana tunes for us here. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. Mike Adams filling in for you today. And in this segment, and for the rest of the show, we're joined by none other than Bob Chapman from the International Forecaster. I've got a ton of questions for Bob. Help us analyze and break down what we've been witnessing here over the last few days with SOPA, with the anonymous attacks, with the Justice Department, with the price of oil, war with Iran, Ron Paul, everything. Bob, are you with us?
I am.
Hey, great to have you on again, Bob. Good to be with you today. What are you making of all of this that's going on?
Well, I'll tell you, there's certainly some tremendous cross currents. Price of oil seems to hang around $100 a barrel, although there doesn't seem to be any imminent threat of war, other than a great bill is being amassed for the cost of the operation. And I don't know if you knew it or not, but the United States government has volunteered to pay that bill for not only their own Navy, but anybody else who joins in.
Wow, so the other nations are now mercenaries working for the Pentagon, huh?
You could say that, but I think this is a little game they're playing here. I don't think they're logistically in position to do what they want to do yet, and it could be 6 months, a year, longer. Who's to say?
Well, do the other nations, do they realize they're going to get paid in fiat currency? I mean, is that, or are they going to demand gold?
Well, you know, it's interesting you should say that, because normally they would believe that they were just getting paid in U.S. dollars and that was okay. But I've been doing the show for about 8 years, and it goes directly to the Marines, the Navy, and all of the other branches, and it goes to the active as well as the retired military. Tremendous audience. And they know, because they've been listening to me for 8 years. And so those guys on shipboard can't wait to get back to exchange their money into gold. And I'm not fooling. That's the truth.
Wow. Well, hey, what do you make of this video we just showed of Ron Paul saying that he wants to introduce a bill to remove the section of the NDAA, the indefinite detention section. Do you think that has any chance whatsoever in Congress of becoming law?
Well, I'm not in Congress or close to it, so I don't know. But I do know this, that by saying such a thing as a reliable possible nominee for the Republican nomination to be President of the United States, I would say it has great import. People are going to say, my goodness, I mean, what the heck is wrong with that thing? What is it? And they're going to start looking into it, and they're going to find out that Ron was right. And I think you might call it a propaganda coup.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Ron was right. I think that's going to be the new bumper sticker in the years ahead. Ron was right. Let me ask for your take also on Ron Paul in the debates last night when he started mentioning the golden rule that, you know, we should treat other nations the way we want them to treat us. Some of the audience members began to boo at that moment. That's kind of sick. What's your take on that, Bob?
Well, I hate to say this, and but I got to. Any audience that boos to something like that does not have their head screwed on straight.
I totally agree with you. It's anti-American. It's anti-Christian values. It's anti-natural law. I mean, the golden rule is one of the basic fundamental laws of the universe, really. You know, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But I guess in America, the new golden rule is do unto others as they would do unto you, but do it first.
And most powerfully.
Yeah, and
we were talking about that for the last 50 years. And, you know, you got a wonderful point here, and so did he in saying so. He separated the wheat from the shaft there. You know, actually, it gives you an excuse for failure because you got a bunch of bunglers in the audience who are saying, who cares about God? Who cares about the guy next door? Who cares about anything? So it was framed properly.
Well, and, you know, in addition to some audience members booing that comment by Ron Paul, which probably was staged anyway, just the way that the entire debate is staged to make sure that Ron Paul doesn't get much airtime. They strip away time from him. Remember the debate where he only got 89 seconds to actually answer questions? I mean, isn't this just more of this total campaign, this fabricated framing of the situation to minimize any impact that Ron Paul might have in reaching people?
Certainly. There's no doubt. They're trying to do everything they can. They're frightened, and they should be. Here's a man who has led an exemplary life, which has not been the case of most of the others. I mean, wife swappers and bisexuals, and we had a real group in there. And then
that's just Speaker of the House.
I get this morning. Statement by somebody out of Washington. Are you kidding me? 50% of the people who are in Congress are bisexual or perverts.
Yeah,
I was shocked.
And I, by the way, I didn't mean the President Speaker of the House in that comment. I meant historically, you know, going back to Newt and what's come out about him. Sorry to interrupt, Bob. Go ahead.
No, I covered it. But please pick up on it.
Oh, no, well, there's just so much to go over. There's news coming out now. Well, first of all, I listened to your interview last Friday with Alex here on the show, and some questions came up that I really wanted to ask you. You know, you and I have something quite in common, which is that we've both lived outside the United States in many different countries, and we both speak many different languages, and we've seen, you know, outside the country and inside the country. So I wanted to ask you, do you think that these kind of people in America who would boo a golden rule type of comment from Ron Paul, do you think that they lack a global perspective on what the real world is really like? Because America is worth saving. America is a great nation, and you won't know it, though, unless you've really lived in a lot of other places that are far, far worse.
Well, everybody doesn't have that luxury. You and I have, and that's nice, but many of these people have not been several hundred miles from their home. And there are people who our intellect.
We will lose our freedom, and the internet is the last place where that freedom remains intact. So it is essential that you defend it and defend the rights of folks like Infowars.com to keep bringing you the truth. I mean, that's what we do here. Stay with us. We have more videos and more news coming up right after this break. This is the Alex Jones Show. We'll be right back. A crew member late for the government. They're trying to shut down the internet, shut down free speech. They're trying to engage in widespread censorship, and they're too late because we already saw the big public backlash against it on Wednesday. And as Alex said, though, this is just the beginning of that war for freedom. Remember, the internet is the last place where we still have free speech. Valentine's Day or something like that, they will find a way to sneak it through, sign it in the dark of night, just like President Obama signed the NDAA on New Year's Eve when half the country was plastered with alcohol. That's the kind of thing that they engage in right here in America. So we have to stay vigilant on this, or intact. And it's under threat now by both SOPA and PIPA bills. We do have some updated news on that, by the way. The PIPA Senate vote has been delayed. Senator Reid announced last night. That's probably, of course, in reaction to all of the protests that took place on Wednesday. Now, you know how these people work, these crooks in Washington. When something has light on it, when it's being exposed, they'll back away from it. They'll say, oh, we're going to shelve that bill. Don't worry about it. We're going to wait until we have consensus. Those are their words exactly. But then in the middle of the night, probably on a holiday, maybe on upcoming